What is up, guys? Welcome back to another UFC prediction video. Not this week, but next week, we have Derek Lewis versus Teixeira in the main event. Pretty decent card overall taking place in Nashville. Gonna go ahead and get this video out a little bit early, even though it isn't taking place until next week. Last two cards, we've been on fire in terms of our predictions. UFC Azerbaijan, only got 2 picks wrong there. Oban Elliott and Ignacio Bahamondes. And then last card for UFC 317, did very, very well. The only pick we got wrong was Hyder Emil over Jose Delgado. So we're going to look to keep a hot streak going, and we're going to go ahead and get right into the full card predictions. First fight, we have Mike Davis versus Mitch Ramirez. Pretty easy fight to call here. Mike Davis should be able to win this fight pretty easily, but he has had some injuries, really hurt his career, as well as he has very bad cardio issues, tends to gas out in the second and third rounds of his fights. But in terms of just a skill set, Mike Davis is a very, very talented fighter. Very good, slick jiu-jitsu, nice submissions, very good ground and pound, super athletic, strong with everything he does, explosive with his takedowns and his boxing combinations. The fight against Mason Jones, if you look back on that, very, very good exchanges. His striking looked sharp in that fight. And, he's gotten some good wins. He's beaten Slava Claus, he's beaten Mason Jones. Those are wins that I do respect. Take what you will from the Nathan Levy fight, dominated that one. Lower level fighter, but last time out against Faraz Ziam, I did pick him to win that fight. Really strange, how he performed there. I had money on him in that spot as well. Disappointing performance. Almost got a submission with a very crazy, I think it was a calf slicer against Faraz Ziam, but wasn't able to pull it off. Looked slow and sluggish on the feet. Supposedly, him, Lucas Alexander, Terrence McKinney, and a few of the other guys did complain about something with the paint fumes going on in the back room. Take from that what you will. I don't really know if I, have much faith into that excuse, but even though Mike Davis, he does have his flaws, he's a very talented fighter, and he should be able to beat Mitch Ramirez, who just really is an MMA generalist, doesn't stand out anywhere. Smoked by Carlos Prates on the Contender Series, smoked by Thiago Moises in his UFC debut, stepping in there on short notice. I think he loses here. I'm going to take Mike Davis first round submission. Next fight on the card, Valter Walker versus Kennedy Njokuani. I'm going to take Kennedy Njokuani here to win via first round TKO. I think just the differential in athleticism, speed, and striking ability is just going to be profound here. Look, Valter Walker, he had a nice submission win last time out, and I believe he got a submission win before that as well. Yeah, against Junior Tafa and Dontel Mays, 2 back-to-back heel hooks, but you can't look over the Lucas Brzezinski loss. Really looked horrible in that fight, legitimately looked like a walrus flopping around in the octagon. He's lost some weight. He's been doing a little bit better recently, but Kennedy, he's a guy that's always had decent takedown defense. Don't get me wrong, the chin has always been suspect, and the loss to OSP just a year and a half ago is definitely a tremendously bad look. But since being up a heavyweight, he's looked fantastic. He has a crazy speed advantage over these guys. He should be able to just piece up Valter Walker for the first couple minutes and then find a TKO shot. So yeah, give me Kennedy Njokuani, round 1 TKO with a mean right hook. Next fight on the card. Interesting fight here. We got Chris Curtis versus Max Griffin, and I do believe this is taking place at 170. Look, realistically, Max Griffin, he's a veteran. Both of these guys are veterans, lots of experience in the UFC, but he just has not been doing very well at all recently. He's been fighting a lot of vets, in his last 2 fights, Michael Chiesa, Jeremiah Wells. I don't really care too much for the Jeremiah Wells win. Looked horrible in the Michael Chiesa fight. Schooled by Michael Morales. Somehow made it to a decision there, but, some of his last wins being Kenan Song, Carlos Condit, Tim Means, you really got to take a look at that level of competition and be like, that's very, very low, especially, in 2025. And when you look at Chris Curtis's last 2 fights, you will see 2 losses and a head kick TKO there against Roman Kopylov. That was an insane fight. I had Roman Kopylov by TKO there, last second head kick, insane, but he looked fantastic in that fight, putting a lot of pressure on Kopylov. He has very good boxing, head movement. It looked sharp in that fight versus Kopylov. Got taken down a little bit at the end, but I think that just goes to show how much Kopylov is improving on a fight-to-fight basis. So I really don't hate the performance there. And the TKO at the very end, kind of a flash knockdown. He didn't get stained out cold. The fight against Brendan Allen, very, very close fight. Some people will say a robbery. But even in those two performances where he did take the loss, looked very good, looked game in those fights, was able to beat Marc-Andre Barriault, was low-key getting schooled by Nassourdine Imavov, but, Nassourdine, one of the cream of the crop in the middleweight division. The KO win over Joaquin Buckley, that's really looking good in hindsight. Loss versus Jack Hermansson, Kelvin Gastelum, he's fought high levels of competition, and he's always, been in there. And Chris Curtis, his style does give a lot of guys problems. I think a guy like Max Griffin is going to struggle against Chris Curtis, who, has really good pressure, good boxing, good defense, really hard to hurt him, really hard to touch him clean. He's going to rip body shots. He's got brick wall takedown defense most of the time, unless you're just a really slick young fighter. Max Griffin, he's not going to be able to fight off the back foot here effectively. I think that he doesn't have the power to keep Chris Curtis off of him. Give me Chris Curtis round 2 TKO here against Max Griffin. Our next fight on the card, we have Chidi Njokuani versus Jake Matthews. Interesting fight here. Jake Matthews, been around the UFC a very long time, started his career pretty young, Australian fighter, only 30 years of age, coming off of 2 wins against Phil Rowe and Francisco Prado. Lower levels of competition. The Phil Rowe win does look good leading into this matchup. Similar style, kind of a similar frame, if you will. The loss to Michael Morales doesn't look bad, one of the better fighters at welterweight. The loss to Matthew Semmelsberger, though, where he did get dropped, really does not look good. He's a well-rounded fighter. He's decent overall, but here I think he is going to struggle with the reach of Chidi Njokuani, who's going to have a massive 8-inch reach advantage, 5'9" versus 6'1". Njokuani is going to have a very, very abundant, reach advantage, length advantage, frame advantage, and that's going to help him because Chidi Njokuani is 100% one of the best just pure Muay Thai stylistic strikers in the entire UFC. He's got clean Muay Thai techniques, beautiful kicks, nasty teeps. His clinch work is insane. You look back at his knee in his last fight versus Dos Santos. You look back at his clinch elbow versus Dusko Trdovic. Nasty finishes. He's excellent in the clinch. He's got sharp striking at range. You look back at his TKO versus Marc-Andre Barriault. And even at 170, where he's been winning some decisions as well against Reese McKee, Jared Gooden, kind of using the clinch, making it a slower fight, just using his range. He can win a boring fight too. Jake Matthews, he's never been too dominant with the wrestling. He's mainly just kind of been a boxer. And I think that's really going to play into Chidi Njokuani's game here. He likes to stay on the outside, find those knees up the middle when you're rushing in. And I think that Chidi's going to be able to have success in this matchup. I think he's able to teep him at range, find knees in the clinch when he tries to, close the distance. And one thing you do have to keep in mind, though, is that this fight is at 170, and Chidi Njokuani has struggled making weight, getting down to 170 throughout his career, even in Bellator. And in his last fight, make no mistake, he did miss weight for that fight. If he misses weight for this fight, I'm actually more confident in his ability to win. Missed weight for a welterweight fight back in Bellator. I think it was like 2019 or something. So sometimes he does struggle making welterweight. That's something you're going to have to keep in mind. If the weight cut's hard for him, he may gas out. We have seen him wilt under pressure against a Mikel Olasejczak, RoboCop. Those types of fighters are going to be able to get to him, but I think here he's going to be able to win a close decision against Jake Matthews. So I'll take Chidi Njokuani 29-28 here. Fatima Klein, not going to go into depth, but she's a really good WMMA prospect. She's been smoking fools, so she's probably going to win her fight. Next fight on the card, we got Morgan Charriere versus Nate the Train. I'm going to take Morgan Charriere to win this one by decision. He should get it done. Younger, faster, stronger, realistically better in every aspect of MMA other than the submission game. Nate Landwer does have very good submissions. He's got good pressure. One of his better wins on his resume against Ludovic Klein, was able to, go tit for tat on the feet, which was super impressive, and then get a submission victory, I believe it was, in that fight against Ludovic Klein. Very good performance from him. But in his most recent performance against Doo Ho Choi, that was just not a good, look for him whatsoever. He, got tuned up on the feet big time with the hands. A very similar loss to the Dan Ige loss, but he did get finished up there. I think his age is going to start to show here. 37 years of age against a young up-and-coming prospect like Morgan Charriere. You know, there's a chance he's able to kind of make it like the David Onama fight, make it dirty and scrappy and tons of output. He can definitely get to Charriere there in terms of that regard. But, you know, you look at Charriere, he's losing to really high-level guys, Paul Hughes, Shepe, Nathaniel Wood. He's got good kickboxing on the feet, good power. His defensive grappling is definitely there. I don't see him getting taken down and controlled by Nate the Train whatsoever. He's just going to have to definitely work on his output, just simply getting numbers on the board in terms of the significant strikes. But if he's able to do that, stay active in this fight, he should be able to cruise to a pretty easy decision here, if not a late rounds TKO. But I'll pick Morgan Charriere to win a 30-27 decision here. I think he bounces back from his loss against Nathaniel Wood, where he did get dropped in that fight. I don't see Nate the Train dropping him, and if he doesn't get dropped there, that's a totally different contest overall. So I'm going to take Morgan Charriere 30-27 decision. Even though it's in Nate the Train's backyard, he might come in there with, you know, a gritty mentality, ready to win, but I don't think it's going to be enough. So yeah, give me Morgan Charriere 30-27. Next fight on the card, we have Junior Tafa versus Tokkos, or George Tokkos. Look, neither of these guys are good whatsoever, but I'm going to take Tokkos because I think that the Tafa brothers are two absolute fat fucking frauds who are just terrible at fighting. I mean, when was the last time either of these guys won? Like, did they knock out fucking Austin Lane? I literally just put them in the same category as Cans because literally, like, finished up in the first round by Teixeira, finished up by leg kicks by Rogerio de Lima. These guys just aren't good. Give me Tokkos by decision. I feel like he's just going to be able to come in, get some takedowns, lay on the plotty heavyweights, get a stinky decision. No need to waste too much time on that one because we have an excellent scrap in the next fight. Calvin Kattar versus Steve Garcia. Steve Garcia, killer be killed fighter. In a way, a glass cannon because he does get finished if he's not getting the finish on you. But, you know, knockout win over Shepe Mariscal in the LFA, that definitely looks good in hindsight. Shepe, dog, tough fighter. And ever since taking that KO loss to Mahashate, he's been on a nasty win streak. I think he has the record for the most first-round KO finishes in a row if it's not Tom Aspinall. But, you know, Chase Hooper, Mel Costa, Sungwoo Choi, Kyle Nelson all in a row. He's a dog, tough fighter. He just goes in there swinging for the fences. You know, even if he gets taken down, he will work his way back up. He's got crispy hands and, you know, just a killer be killed fighter. You know, just head on the center line, rushes forward, slings haymakers, and it's been working for him. But Calvin Kattar, he's a guy that, even though I said in my fighters that will never win another UFC fight video that he would never win another UFC fight, he's been on a very terrible run. But this is actually a stylistic matchup that is good for him in a way because he's not the type of guy to get TKO'd. He has an iron chin. I don't think he's ever been stopped in his entire professional career legitimately. You know, you look past the Arnold Allen injury. That was technically a TKO, but he's never been stopped. And when he's losing these fights, you know, Yusuf Zalal, Aljamain Sterling, these are guys that, you know, Yusuf Zalal, super quick on the back foot, counter kickboxing style. Aljamain Sterling, heavy pressure grappler. These are guys that are going to give Calvin Kattar, who's kind of a methodical boxer, likes to pick a shot, slip in some elbows, you know, fight in the pocket. That's going to make it very difficult for a guy like him to have success. But Steve Garcia is going to play right into Calvin Kattar's wheelhouse. And I think that if Calvin Kattar is able to weather an early storm, I think he can pull out a decision. You look at that third round versus Yusuf Zalal, he was really pushing the pace, put the gas on, and he was looking good, landing good shots, and he won that round convincingly. You know, was looking to get a stoppage as well. I think that he's able to carry over that momentum, start a little faster here, stay safe. He does have good head movement, good boxing defense as well. You know, even in the Max Holloway fight where he was getting tuned up, he was able to tough it out. I think he toughs out the first round, and I think he's able to win the next two. So give me Calvin Kattar to win this one by a 29-28 decision here. All right, our next fight on the card, Austin Lane versus Vitor Petrino. Vitor Petrino been absolutely fraud checked in his last two fights against Anthony Smith and Dustin Jacoby. Basically gone to sleep both of those times, got choked out and then knocked out. But, you know, you look at his fights before that, Tyson Pedro, Modestas Bukauskas, Marcin Praggnio, Anton Turkalj, Rodolfo Bellato. he's able to get decent wins there. And Austin Lane, I really just don't see him giving him any issues. Unless you're a Rebellis de Spain who has 0 grappling, or you just don't throw any output like a Mario Pinto did in the first round. If you connect with this dude on the chin, most of the time he's going out. He's not very clean on the feet, very hittable. And Petrino, he does, throw some output. I don't see him just getting tit for tatted for 3 rounds. I don't see him getting knocked out by Austin Lane. When was the last time Lane TKO'd anybody? I think Vitor Petrino, he's probably going to be able to find the chin here in this matchup. And I think he finds a first round TKO realistically. So yeah, give me Vitor Petrino first round TKO over Austin Lane. The athleticism, the size, the strength, just the striking overall, the power in his hands, it's going to be enough to make Austin Lane second guess himself. And once he second guesses himself, he does tend to get tagged on the chin. Petrino's going to find that shot. He's going to get a TKO round 1 or 2. We move on to the co-main event of the evening. Gabriel Bonfim versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, one of my favorite fighters of all time. Super lovable guy, super entertaining fight style, especially in his prime. Looked all right against Joaquin Buckley in his last fight as well. But let's just be real. I mean, what is he, like 43 years of age at this point? Super washed up, super past his prime. Even in the Kevin Holland fight, got dropped. And Kevin Holland just didn't initiate any grappling in that fight. And you're looking back at 2020, 2019 wins against Jeff Neal and Vicente Luque when he last had a showcase performance, a classic Wonderboy performance, if you will. And, lots and lots of L's scattered throughout his recent runs. Yeah, I mean, look, he had the good win over Masvidal, lost 2 fights there, arguable robbery against Darren Till, TKO'd versus Anthony Pettis. And look, Gabriel Bonfim, he's nothing like a Vicente Luque, he's nothing like a Jeff Neal or a Kevin Holland. He's not going to, fight on the center line, let Wonderboy be able to cut angles on him and hit him with good combinations. And he's going to initiate grappling if he needs to, like Kevin Holland. Look, I think Gabriel Bonfim is going to have a very easy fight here in front of him. And I think Gabriel Bonfim is 100% one of the best fighters in the welterweight division. Only 27 years of age now. He's only getting better. The one loss to Nicholas Dalby, look, you can kind of chop that up to he cracked under pressure in his hometown. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is not going to apply any forward pressure to Gabriel Bonfim. It's going to be a technique for technique fight, and that perfectly plays into Bonfim's style. It does for Wonderboy as well, but make no mistake, Wonderboy is chinny at this point. He's slow at this point, and he has pillow hands. He can't hurt anybody. And, his karate kicks are only going to work for so long. They really just don't even have any snap to be able to keep people off of him. Gabriel Bonfim, nasty hands, really sharp jab. He's going to be landing that jab on Wonderboy Thompson all day. Probably going to break that nose. He's going to be chopping the calf kicks. He's got very good calf kicks. And the jiu-jitsu and the submission game is definitely on a high level. You saw last time out, choking Chaos Williams out cold. I think he's going to get a submission here against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, very similar to how Shavkat Rakhmonov did. I think they're going to go tit for tat on the feet. I think Gabriel Bonfim is going to have a speed and power advantage. I think he's going to light him up early. Wonderboy is going to start to second guess himself. Gabriel Bonfim catches a kick, takes the back, and is able to secure a rear naked choke, within the first 2 rounds. But I'll say that Gabriel Bonfim gets a second round rear naked choke here against Wonderboy. I think we see the first round take place on the feet, and then in the second round, Gabriel Bonfim is going to take the fight to the ground, and he's going to be able to get a rear naked choke stoppage. He's going to catch a kick from Wonderboy, sweep him, or just take the back with a duck under from there and find that rear naked. Look, Wonderboy, he's good, but this is most likely going to be the last fight in his career. Getting up there in age, you hate to see it. You wish they could have given him, some type of legend versus legend matchup, but we know what they're doing. They're building a prospect here. Gabriel Bonfim gets the job done by finish rear naked choke round 2. All right, we move on to the main event of the evening, Derek Lewis versus Taliesin Teixeira. Look, heavyweight fight here. Not a lot of intricacies to break down in terms of the technique. We know what the deal is with Derek Lewis. Big, meaty right hook over the top. Most KOs in UFC history. He's just TKO'd so many guys. Chris Curtis, last 2 times out was against Marcus Rogerio de Lima and then Nascimento. So recently he's only been able to get wins over blobs. And let's just be real. I think Derek Lewis is completely checked out of the fight game. Even though he was able to win by TKO last time out against Nascimento, really looked checked out in the first 2 rounds of that fight. You know, was going for takedowns and switch kicks, just fighting really stupidly. Was able to finally find the shot in the third, but that's just kind of the story of Derek Lewis. Remember the Volkov fight? He was getting tuned up for 3 and then found a clutch TKO there at the end. Smudged into the canvas by Jelton Almeida. He had the flying knee fluke versus De Lima. And then before that, really started the downfall of Derek Lewis. You look at the Spivak, Pavlovich, and Tai Tuivasa TKOs. The Tai Tuivasa one really aging poorly. Got tuned versus Cyril Gahn. You know, Chris Dawkins TKO, nothing to write home about. And, you know, before then, 2021 and before, we really saw prime Derek Lewis. But at this point, he's been very vocal about not taking the fight game super seriously. He doesn't want to fight super hard contenders. He knows he's not good enough for the belt. He doesn't take his diet too seriously. And look, a guy like that who's 40 years old, who's been in the fight game forever, who's making good checks, win or lose, who he knows he's going to have a job to come back to tomorrow, he's never going to beat a guy like Talashin Teixeira, who is an undefeated prospect, everything to gain in this spot, nasty, nasty striking. He has good Muay Thai overall. He has a lot more tools than a Derek Lewis, all he has is the big right hook. Talashin, he has good straight shots down the middle, good teeps, good, body and head kicks, nasty, nasty round kicks. He can even take the fight down to the ground if he needs to. He is a BJJ black belt. We saw him, look to initiate some grappling against Tafa in his debut. Got a nasty, nasty TKO on the Dana White Contender Series as well. I think that he's going to be able to get a round 1 stoppage here against Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis isn't going to be able to reach him at all. He's just going to be at such a height and reach disadvantage. Talashin Teixeira, 6'8", 82-inch reach, ridiculous frame. And as soon as Derek Lewis realizes that he's not going to be able to land the big bomb, he's going to take a barrage of strikes and he's going to quit. It's going to be the old fuck it Derek Lewis that we've been used to seeing. And yeah, I think it's going to look a lot similar to the Tai Tuivasa TKO. I think that Talashin comes out, couple body kicks, couple head kicks. Derek Lewis swings big. Teixeira, clinches him against the fence a little bit, breaks, lands an elbow, a knee, maybe a 1-2 down the pipe, and Derek Lewis just folds against the fence, covers up into a ball, and says, fuck it, I don't want any of this smoke. I think Teixeira is definitely going to be one of the better heavyweight prospects that we do see come up. I think it's going to take someone with really good grappling or someone with just a good overall skill set, like maybe a Marcin type Bora to give him issues, maybe a Waldo Cortez Acosta to give him issues, but I think he's going to be able to run through all of the blobs and all of the kind of one-dimensional heavyweight fighters like Derek Lewis on his way up. So yeah, I'll take Talashin Teixeira round 1 TKO. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. Enjoy the UFC Nashville card next weekend and have a great rest of your day.